For many millennia, the Egyptian Sphinx has been guarding the tombs of the pharaohs, and some even claim that it appeared long before the construction of the most luxurious tombs of the ancient world, and survived the flood. This amazing beast does not only take care of the safety of the deceased pharaohs. In fact, he is alive, he is a demigod, he is a guardian of order. Therefore, the Sphinx does not always sit in its place. If it is not satisfied with the way people behave, it jumps off the pedestal and runs away into the desert. And there, buried deep in the sand, he disappears from sight for a long time. The Great Sphinx is located on the territory of Egypt, in the suburbs of Cairo, on the Giza Plateau, which is located on the western shore of the Nile, and stares tirelessly at the place from where the daylight rises on the day of the summer or winter equinox. It is so old that it is the oldest statue of our planet that has survived to this day, and it is interesting that the ancient masters carved it out of lime rock, depicting a huge mythical creature, a lion with the face of a man. The Great Sphinx looks as follows: height 20 meters, length 73 meters, width in the shoulders 11.5 meters, and width of the face 4.1 meters, and height 5 meters. Between the paws of the ancient statue is a stele erected by Pharaoh Thutmose IV, who ruled in the 14th century BC. The Great Sphinx is surrounded by a wide moat 5.5 meters, the depth of which is 2.5 meters. Near the world's oldest statue are 3 Egyptian pyramids, the tombs of the pharaohs Hebron, Cheops, and Mikern. Unfortunately, the past millennia have taken their toll on the statue. The headdress, imitating a cobra raised to the face, is gone forever, and the festive scarf falling down to the shoulders from the head is broken off. From the ceremonial beard of the demigod remained only fragments, which in our time can be seen in the museums of Britain and Cairo. When exactly the Sphinx had a beard, scientists have not yet decided. Some say that it was created already in the times of the New Kingdom, others that it was made at the same time as the head. The nose, the width of which in former times was 1.5 meters, is badly damaged. Most likely, this is how one of the rulers decided to fulfill Mohammed's covenant not to allow depicting a human face, and ordered to knock it down. The mystery of the Sphinx surrounds everything, and one of its mysteries is why exactly ancient people needed to create such a sculpture. Many Egyptologists agree that the huge sculpture was dedicated to the Nile and the rising sun. The mythical creature's gaze is directed eastward for a reason. They pay attention to the fact that the lion in almost all civilizations of the ancient East symbolized the sun, so their pharaoh Egyptians, who consider him the embodiment of God, often depicted in the form of this beast, dealing with their enemies. There is a great probability that the purpose of the Sphinx was to guard the eternal sleep of the deceased pharaohs. There are versions saying that in reality the statue of the Sphinx is a collective image which symbolized for seasons and pointed ancient people to the day of vernal equinox. For example, according to this theory, the body of the lion symbolized the day of spring, and invisible to our eyes, wings the autumnal equinox, and the paws of the demigod mark the summer and face the winter solstice. The mystery of the Sphinx has kept people in suspense for many millennia. When it was built, who built it, what it was built for. Even the face of this amazing monument leaves more questions than answers. Despite the fact that many Egyptologists still agree that the face of the Sphinx is the face of Pharaoh Hebron to 5742-465 BC, this hypothesis is not final, and it is disputed by many researchers. So apparently, the answer to the question, whose face this mystical creature wears, most likely, will remain unsolved for quite some time. What confuses Egyptologists is that the face has negroid features, completely different from the surviving images of Hebron, presumably whom the statue depicted, and even from his relatives. Specialists, having compared the face of the Sphinx with the statues of this pharaoh, made an unambiguous conclusion that they belong to two completely different people. Some researchers put forward another interesting theory, saying that the face of this amazing creature combines the images of the pharaohs, Pavian monkey god of wisdom and knowledge Thoth, and the sun god Horus. Many researchers put forward more unconventional versions. For example, geologist Robert Schoch, whose hypothesis was not recognized by his colleagues, proposed the idea that the monument first had a lion's face, instead of which some Egyptian ruler later ordered his face to be embossed. One of the reasons why Egyptologists could not determine when exactly representatives of the ancient people created the Great Sphinx is that they carved it in limestone rock, the age of which is much older than the statue itself. The official version of scientists so far says that since the statue depicts the pharaoh Hebron, the time of its appearance also dates back to this period, that is, it was created during the Fourth Dynasty, approximately 2.5 thousand years BC. They focus on the fact that it was at this time that the ancient Egyptian civilization reached its greatest heyday, and therefore neither before nor after the statue could not have been created, because the Egyptians of other eras simply could not cope with such work. Everything is not so simple. This theory is questioned by more and more scientists, so recently, the mystery of the Sphinx has become more intriguing than before. It is worth noting that the base of the statue was clearly subjected to erosion, which was caused by the long stay of the monument in water. Hydrologist studies have shown that there was a lot of water around the Egyptian Sphinx, and the Nile flowing nearby had nothing to do with it, because the huge flow of water that caused the erosion came from the north, and it happened around the 8th millennium BC. Another group of British researchers came to even bolder results. According to their version, the natural disaster occurred here in the 12th millennium BC, which agrees with the date of the flood, which occurred between VX 1000 BC. The official version of the presence of cracks and erosion is explained by the influence of the environment, acid rain, low-quality limestone rock. Another explanation suggests that the Giza Plateau used to be extremely revered by the ancient Egyptians, who kept it clean and cleared it of sand, and therefore heavy rains could well damage the statue by collecting in huge puddles near the monument. Recently, the Egyptian Sphinx has set another mystery about its age. A group of Japanese scientists, Ekalikatorimu, cleared the nearby pyramids of the Sphinx and found that the stones of the rock from which the Great Sphinx was carved were processed much earlier than were trimmed blocks of the Pyramid of Cheops. Before the Japanese researchers suddenly appeared another mystery of the Sphinx. Their equipment found a small rectangular room. It was under the left paw, the entrance to a fairly narrow tunnel located at a depth of 2 meters, which slopes down towards the Pyramid of Chephren, and therefore, where exactly leads, trace not yet possible, especially since the Egyptians did not allow the Japanese to study it in more detail, perhaps fearing how the researchers would not damage the statue. Herodotus, who visited Egypt in 445 BC and wrote about his trip in his histories, did not mention the statue at all, and this despite the fact that in the chronicles he even told such details of the life of the pyramids as how many slaves worked at the construction site and what they were fed with. But the Sphinx in Egypt was not mentioned by him. It can be only for one reason: at that time, the giant lion was not there. The desert did its job and completely covered the statue with sand. The local people took care of the statue, as it was a talisman for them, on which depended the level of the Nile overflow, and thus, the harvest and prosperity. Then it apparently lost its paramount importance, and for some reason the locals stopped carefully clearing the area around it of sand, and the sand gradually covered it completely. The Egyptian rulers were getting alarmed and ordered to clean the statue from drifts. This was repeatedly done by pharaohs, then Greek kings, emperors of Rome, Arab rulers. The statue could not be brought back to its original form and excavated to the end, and therefore only the head often rose above the sand. Thutmose IV in the 14th century BC managed to free the lion's front legs, after which he placed a granite stele with an inscription between them. The desert did not calm down, and only for the last 2 centuries, the sculpture was dug up 3 times and achieved significant results. In 1817, Italian archaeologists managed to clear the chest of the statue from the sand, but it was completely free from drifts only in 1925. The Sphinx was recently restored, having scanned the lion with ultrasonic emitters. Scientists discovered dangerous cracks that urgently needed to be addressed, and the condition of the paws was also alarming. Therefore, it was decided to close the monument, and tourists were forbidden to approach it. The Egyptians restored the statue at their own expense, and by their own efforts. The cracks were filled with mortars, the pedestal was strengthened, the previously fallen-off pieces of the Sphinx were found and put back in place, and at the end of 2014, after restoration, the Great Sphinx became available for tourists, and for the first time in many years, people had the opportunity to approach the most ancient monument of our planet at arm's length. If you liked the video, then don't forget to put a like and subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot of interesting, shocking, and exciting things ahead.